It's time to look at post functions. What do these requirements have in common? Bugs should be automatically assigned to a QA engineer as soon as they're fixed. For reports, the current date needs to be captured automatically once a product has shipped. When product support reopens a request, the resolution should be cleared automatically. What's the answer? These are all automated actions that need to take place after a transition has executed. This can be achieved by using post functions. A post function is an automated action that happens after a transition has executed, assuming that the conditions and validators have passed. In this example, a post function clears the resolution field after the reopen transition has executed, which moves the issue from done back to do. Jira includes several optional post functions that can be added to transitions to meet business requirements. One example is assigning issues, for example, to the reporter, current user, or to the project or component lead developer. You might assign an issue back to the reporter when their holiday request has been rejected, for instance. Another common post function is to update an issues field. For example, setting the issue priority to highest. Jira's Update Issue Field post function allows you to update several system fields: assignee, description, environment, priority, summary, resolution, original estimate, remaining estimate, and time spent. Several marketplace apps allow you to update custom fields. One very important system field which should be updated is the resolution field. Every workflow should set the resolution field when an issue is considered completed in its final status, whether that is resolved, closed, done, etc. To set the resolution field, you can either prompt the user to select it on a transition screen, as we have seen before, or you can update the field directly through a post function via one or more transitions. Here on the left you see the first option. When going from in progress to done, the user is prompted to select the resolution as either duplicate, fixed, or won't do. On the right, you see the second option. There are 3 outgoing transitions from the in-progress status to 3 different statuses. Each one sets a different resolution automatically. The resolution is set automatically to duplicate when going to the status resolved. It is set to fixed when going to closed, and to won't do when going to canceled. Remember that Jira sees the resolution field as a flag. If it has a value, then the issue is considered resolved. If it's empty, then the issue needs some form of action and is therefore considered open. This is very important because Jira uses resolution on various gadgets and reports. All transitions that resolve an issue should set a resolution value, either automatically via a post function or from user input via a transition screen. Likewise, the resolution field needs to be cleared whenever an issue is being reopened. Otherwise, it will still appear as being completed on Jira Gadgets and Reports. You cannot clear the resolution via a transition screen because once it is on a screen, it is required. So here you see 2 transitions that reopen the issue by going back to the to-do status. One from the resolved status and the other from the done status. They both clear the resolution, so in Jira it now shows as unresolved. In the lower example, the issue is being transitioned from canceled to reopened, and it also clears the resolution field. Not all workflows allow an issue to be reopened, but if they do, they should clear the resolution field. Note that clearing the resolution field also clears the resolve date. Whenever you create a new transition, you notice that 5 post functions are added by default. These are called essential post functions. They include setting the issue status properly, adding a comment to the database if one was entered, updating change history, re-indexing, and firing an event. When you create a new transition, the default event that is fired is the generic event, as shown here. But your administrators can change this to another system or custom event. We'll learn about events in a moment. These essential post functions cannot be deleted from a transition or reordered. However, you can insert other, optional post functions between them. The sequence of post functions matters. Notice in this example that the fourth post function sets the resolution to duplicate, but that occurs after the third post function, which updates change history. So the change in resolution will not show up properly in the issue change history. Lines 3 and 4 should be switched. Lines 3 and 4 have been switched in this screenshot. Make sure any post functions you add are appropriately sequenced. Indexing, database update, and firing events should be the final post functions. Transitions always fire an event as the final of the default post functions. By default, when a new transition is created, the generic event is fired. But custom events are commonly used in workflow transitions to generate specific notifications not generally covered by other events. Let's take a look at an example of how you might configure a transition so that it fires a custom event rather than a system event as its last post function. Suppose you had a tax project with a workflow to handle tax returns. In some cases, the assignee will click a transition called Audit Required to move the issue from Under Review to Pending Audit. This is the only time that auditors should be notified, and not every time that returns are updated, commented, and so on. Which event should be fired? It makes sense to add a custom event called Pending Audit, which notifies only the auditors group and only during this transition. The auditors group would only be notified when this particular event is fired when clicking this particular transition. Here is how the process works. First, the mail listener picks up and processes the event. Then the notification scheme of the tax project is checked. Finally, an email is sent to the auditors group, as listed in the Pending Audit custom event of the notification scheme. It's worth noting that there is one more important step not pictured here. Before sending the email, Jira must also check the permission scheme and the issue security scheme associated with the project to make sure that auditors group do actually have permissions to view the issue. So in summary, to use custom events, Jira administrators must first create the event, and then the event can be selected by editing the last post function of a transition. And recipients of that custom event should be entered into the project's notification scheme. Let's look a little closer at Jira's internal events subsystem. Events are fired not just during workflow transitions, but also as a result of other issue operations within the application. The events subsystem detects various issue changes and fires off the event corresponding to that change. Jira then looks up the notification scheme associated with the issue's project and identifies the users associated with the fired event. It then sends an email notification to each user. Notification schemes map events and email recipients. There are 17 system events as shown on the left. These include issue created event, issue updated, issue assigned, issue moved, issue deleted, and many others. On the right you see examples of custom events, such as awaiting response and pending audit, which may be added globally by Jira administrators. You don't have to have custom events in a Jira instance, but business requirements may warrant it, as we explored earlier. A post function can be used to trigger a webhook. Webhooks are user-defined HTTP post callbacks. You can use Jira webhooks to notify a remote application that certain events occur in Jira. You can trigger a webhook through a workflow transition, which we'll focus on here, or through changes to Jira issues, for example, when they are modified or deleted, or even when boards are created or sprints started. There are numerous events to choose for webhooks, and you can post all events to a specified URL or a specific set of events for a specific set of issues. Using webhooks means that remote applications don't have to periodically poll Jira to determine whether changes have occurred. Webhooks must first be registered. That means created, either by a Jira administrator or via the REST API. In a workflow transition, you can add a post function called Trigger a Webhook. In the example pictured here, when an audit is required, a webhook is triggered to automatically assign tasks to auditors in a remote auditing application. If the webhook you choose is also configured to listen to events, then the webhook will be triggered twice, once for the event and once for the workflow transition. For this reason, you should always unselect all events from the webhook admin screen. Let's put all this together and look at an example of how a transition with configured post functions appears in Jira. There are a total of 7 post functions configured in this example. There are 5 default ones, the essential ones, plus 2 additional ones. The first one assigns the issue to whomever is currently listed in the lead auditor field. The next one triggers a webhook to the remote auditing application so the right activity can happen there. The next few are the default post functions. And the last row shows that a custom event pending audit is fired, so that other auditors can be notified.